Hey guys, Paul Morrow for the Ops Desk here. Want to do a quick recap of the big SCOTUS day we had that I was teeing up last night in our big news recap. We knew it was going to be a big day, and indeed it in fact was. Let's go through the big decisions. First of all, the big one obviously is the slapdown of the universal injunctions. Now, I say universal and not national because in fact they are universal. They apply even to cases that the United States courts decide to adjudicate relative to essentially global jurisdiction, stuff that you can get into an American court and adjudicate here. These injunctions even applied there. And as Pam Bondi said during the press conference, essentially 5 jurisdictions were holding the rest of the entire system hostage because they were hyper-liberal and they were employing this lawfare. Now, the effect of this on the ground, you're going to see. You may not feel it unless you're an illegal, but you're going to see a lot of Donald Trump's agenda unleashed now relative to sanctuary cities, funding of sanctuary cities, etc., but also in deporting illegals and even the Doge stuff that had been held up. This stuff is going to now move forward. The jurisdictions that brought these cases to try to throw the sand in the gears of the Trump administration can still do that. But then what happens is it has to be appealed. It goes up the chain, and the appellate courts will almost certainly, after this decision, slap those down. So what you're going to have is, certain jurisdictions are still going to try, but they're going to lose. But now essentially all the other jurisdictions are just going to say hands off. So while the left may have still some options here, all it does is it buys them some time. But ultimately they're going to lose, and at some point the courts are going to lose patience with entertaining these specious lawsuits that are coming out of places like Maryland, California, Delaware, etc. Very big win for the Trump administration, undeniably. Second, we got the big decision relative to the trans books. And to me, this one is the one that really breaks down more ideologically in terms of showing the difference between the left and the right. Why? Because this decision very clearly returns parenting to parents. All right, and this is something that the hyper-left does not agree with. They want your kids to be raised by the government. And from where I sit, what SCOTUS just said is no to teachers grooming your kids. Kids that are not even sexualized yet, they haven't hit puberty, being exposed in a mandatory way to a curriculum that the parents didn't vote for, the kids don't understand, but you have no choice. Bullshit, all right? This one, I can't believe went 6-3. I thought this might have even gone 7-2, 8-1, or maybe 9-0. It's disappointing that it didn't. The dissent is really weak, too. Sotomayor says something about this decision damaging the civic vitality of our society. So apparently, it is vital in our civic discourse to have the mandatory grooming of children at the behest of the teachers union. I don't think so. This one really should have been a 9-0. It's very disappointing, but it shows you how polarized the court is. And Kagan, by the way, who's a real lawyer, is a disappointment here. She's out to lunch on this, but it just shows you, and the dissent in the first decision, too, by the way, is really, really weak, ultimately just bankrupt. There's no legal dissent there. There's just sort of a gripe session. Not very professional and very disappointing in the Supreme Court. The last case is the one I talked about last night, the porno decision. I thought this was important because it's a First Amendment case. And again, it went down on ideological lines, 6-3. You can have an age verification for all porno sites. This is going to be a big mess in the cyber world. Now you have to put in verification measures. This is going to come down to a lot of the internet providers. This is a pretty big deal. And excuse me, you're going to see a lot of upset on that side of things. That industry is going to move offshore, and it's an enormous industry. Pretty big First Amendment decision. The only other thing I would say is this. You know, the court now appears to be hyper-polarized. And that being the case, it makes me think there is some hope here for the Trump administration to get the birthright citizenship decision that they want. Amy Coney Barrett smacked Jackson in her decision when she wrote it up. And that's unusual for the court. So I see there's a very good chance here. People saying it's a received wisdom that the Trump administration is going to lose that. I'm not so sure. Positions on the court seem to be hardening, and the right side seems to have lost a lot of respect for the left. Paul Morrow for the Ops Desk.